Hey, this is Kenny Moran, and welcome to my tutorial series on the new instrument called Sequence by Big Fish Audio. Today's tutorial will be on the mixer section of Sequence, and I'm going to go over all the different things I did to make it sound the way you're listening to right now. So the first thing is, let's pull this center screen for a second. You've seen all the different modes. We've gone through them through the other tutorials. And this is the most powerful section of Sequence. Each track has its own fader that you can see. The first 12 tracks are the drum kit. And then 13, they're not numbered, but this is the roll creator, its own level. This is an extra sample that you can use to program, and like all on its own. And then this is the 808 bass player. So if you look at the faders, you've got the sample name, you have the main, this is the output section, and you can select whether this is going to the main output or any one of Kontakt's outputs. There's 16, so 16 stereo outputs. We could send these all to their own fader within Logic, or in any DAW, Pro Tools, Nuendo, Cubase, whatever you're using. It allows you to get more dedicated mixing power. I'm going to start off here, though, all within, Sequence, within the player of Kontakt here. If you see the mute, you see solo, and then this tab right here, effects. Now, the effects is where the real power comes in, because in the effects, we have all these effects right across the top, right? They are all dedicated to each individual fader. So you've noticed I click on this effects, I've got an EQ, I got a compressor, I got a high pass filter. When I go on this fader, I got a brand new thing of effects again, and I'm using EQ, compressor, and a saturator. On this, I'm not using anything, and so on and so on. You can see how they all change. That's because each fader has its own dedicated bank of effects. So in other words, you can really sculpt the sound exactly to what you're hearing your production is, the way you want it to be. Even if you're paying for a mixer, to mix the track, and it's going to a record, and it's going to get mixed on a big SSL or whatever. In the end of the day, you still want your production to be as close to what you're hearing as possible. So we can still get in here and make all this sound the way we want. You can turn each channel on and off, and by turning each channel on and off, you actually save power. So you can turn around here and say, okay, whatever I'm not using, and there's really not a whole lot that I'm not using, but let's just say I don't think I'm using that. So we can turn that off and actually save some CPU. But if it turns out in your production you're not using tracks 3 and 4, and you're not using tracks 7 and 11, well, then you can just save on that CPU power by just simply turning them off. When you come up here, this pertains right here, the tuning, the length, release, hard and soft. That pertains to the work wheel. So remember, we looked at kick drum, we have the two little work wheels. We click on this and it shows up the length. We can make the envelope on the end hard or soft, and then we have the pitch, right? Well, when we're in the mixer, we can get to that exact same parameter again just by clicking on the effects, and you'll notice that it goes to the same settings. But what this allows you to do is, in the middle of your mix, you may have thought, oh, that's a little too long, so I'll make it shorter. Or let me hear what the hard release sounds like versus the soft release while I'm mixing, because a lot of times that will change the way you look at the sound, or I should say hear the sound, right? So when you go up across the top, you choose which effect you're currently going to be working on. So you'll notice as I go through here, all the knobs change, and there's a nice little picture on the side to tell you what's going on, right? All of these are really useful. I've used all the various different things depending on what song I was using it on. And on this one, I still have a certain amount of things going on, but it's really, really powerful. The compressor sounds great. The EQ sounds great. And if I get to my drum kit here, let's just look at this and let's look at what I did. So if I turn these off, that's the way the kick drum sounded before. Now I had a high pass filter on, click on there. You can see I'm rolling off the top a whole lot, right? Then I turned on my EQ, and then went to my compressor. Right? So you're looking at the EQ. I've actually added a bunch of bottom end on this. The mid range is the same, and the top's the same. I didn't do anything to it. Um, you just got to use your ears. I mean, this is all about making the sounds, and you don't need to be an engineer to get this done. So you're not going to see frequency amounts or what you're dealing with. Just listen to it, add some gain or decrease some gain, whatever you're doing, and you're going to come up with the sound you want. I'm going to go over to, let's see something else that, well, let me show you what we can do with this for a second. Right? That's just by doing that. My EQ here, if I turn it off, big difference. Compressor, very dramatic difference. The compressor is coming after the EQ. And in this case, that's probably where you want it to be. Having some saturator. It's mild. I'm not pushing it too hard, as you can see. Let's click on it. It's not pushing it very hard at all. And I can do this on every single fader. So I'm really getting into the mix. You know, this is my mixer, and I'm getting right into the mix of each thing. Now, if you go, I'm going to go over here to the master output, and on the master output, in the final version, these will be labeled. This will say, I believe this will be master, and this will say 808, that will say, you know, the role creator, and this will be sample sound of some kind. Whatever it is, you'll see it written there. When you go here and turn on this master fader, you'll notice I got some compression, I've got the saturator happening, and I got a limiter. So if I play this, let's turn these off. Hear the difference in there, right? So it really is that easy. We've gone over every part. Now you will see this here, the swing and the speed as well. That pertains to, again, the scenes from the sequencer. So that pertains to here, right, in this section, where I can change the speed of it and I can change the swing of it. So if I go back to the mixer, same idea. I can preview things. I can sit here and go, right? You can hear got the new jack swing on. I don't need that much swing. But that's not too bad at all. And then you remember the speed is just halftime, normal, and right? That, believe it or not, is the entire mixer section and the endless possibilities of production sound, getting it to be the record, you know. On the next tutorial, I'll get into some really intricate programming on the mixer where we can get into automating, you know, automating pans and volumes and things like that, and using all the discrete outputs so you can see how it would show up inside Logic in your work, and how we can do everything we did here, but then we can also add the power of the DAW by using any number of plugins that you may own or all the plugins that came with your DAW.